Guess what? Today we're making birria. It is right here, it's cooking, it smells delicious, and wait till you see the queso tacos we're gonna be making with this delicious and tender meat. I'll be explaining more about the dish itself and the process throughout this video. As always, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Rosanna, and let me show you how I make this delicious birria. Start by deveining 8 chiles guajillos and 4 puya chiles. Guajillos vary in heat but are mostly mild, while puya chiles are hotter, smaller, and thinner in comparison. Birria is a very popular and rich meat stew. It is traditionally made from goat, but in today's recipe we will make it with beef since it seems to be the most preferred version of this dish. By removing the seeds and veins, we can reduce some of the heat content. By the way, you can use kitchen gloves when handling the chilies if you prefer. Once you are done, set a pan on very low heat, the lowest setting available. To add depth of flavor, we will toast the chilies. Place in the pan and turn them constantly. We need to pay close attention to this step because if they burn, it will ruin the sauce by turning it extremely bitter. This is why it's very important the surface in which we are toasting is at a warm temperature, just enough to slightly toast and release the aromas of the chilies, not burn them. I like to do this step in small batches because it gives me enough time to work with them. If you see any dark spots, that's a sign that they have started to burn. You will know they are ready to remove from the heat as soon as they become fragrant. Once all of them are toasted, rinse and drain them. I'm also going to clean and dry my pan to have it ready for the next step. Let's prep a couple more ingredients we will need. Take 2 Roma tomatoes and dice them into medium-sized pieces. They don't need to be perfect since we will be blending them later on. Also dice half of a medium onion. Both the tomatoes and onions need to be uniform in size. Set both ingredients to the side and off to the next step. Over medium-low heat, pour in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Once the oil is hot, add in the onions and saute. Also add in 3 garlic cloves. Stir constantly until the onions begin to soften. Then add the tomatoes and keep stirring. We are looking for the tomatoes to soften as well. Then pour in 2 cups of water. Right after that, we will also incorporate the spices, starting with half a teaspoon of whole cumin, a 1/4 teaspoon of black peppercorns, and half a teaspoon of dried oregano. Give it a quick stir and then place the clean red chilies directly into the liquid so they can soften. This won't take long. As soon as the chilies are soft and rehydrated, remove from the heat and place everything in a blender. Do not leave anything behind. All the flavors developed are very much valuable. Go ahead and blend until smooth. This blender did an amazing job. It pureed everything oh so well, I won't have to strain it. If after blending you still see some of the skins of the chili or other ingredients, you can go ahead and strain. For the meat, I'm using 3.5 pounds of beef short ribs. Short ribs will release so much flavor and the meat will turn out incredibly tender. Place a large pot with 8 cups of water over high heat and let it reach a boil. Then pour in the chili mixture into the water and watch as it turns a beautiful red color. Add an additional cup of water to the blender and swirl it so you can get the last of the puree from the sides and pour into the pot. Now carefully add in the meat. As I prepared this dish, I can't help but have flashback memories to my childhood while living in Mexico. Small taco carts were set on the side of the road or plazas early in the morning to sell a variety of tacos, including birria tacos. The CONSOME holds great value when making birria because it does not only impart flavor to the meat while cooking, but it's the broth we will accompany and indulge the taco in. Sometimes my mother would send us to buy just the consomme. We would roll a fresh made corn tortilla and dip it in. Moving on, sprinkle in 2 teaspoons of salt. We will adjust the salt at the end because it will be cooking for a long time and we do not want to oversalt it. Also add in 3 small sprigs of mint leaves or Hierbabuena and 1 bay leaf. Lastly, drizzle in 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. I'm using white wine vinegar, but you can also use white distilled vinegar. Allow it to reach a boil once again and then lower the heat to medium-low. Cover and let it cook until the meat is tender and falling off the bone. It will take approximately 2.5 hours. Meanwhile, we're going to take advantage of the time and prep some more. Finely chop some onions, cilantro, jalapenos, and also cut a lime into wedges. For the quesa tacos, I will be using queso Oaxaca, which is a type of Mexican cheese. If you can't find this type of cheese, you could also use mozzarella. Go ahead and shred the queso Oaxaca, which has a string-like texture that makes shredding super easy. It's a good idea to place it back in the fridge until ready to be used. The birria has been cooking for a while now, but it's not done yet. You want the broth to simmer the entire time, allowing it to cook slowly. After 2.5 hours, the meat should be falling off the bone tender. This looks amazing, and there's already loose bones at the bottom of the pot that have fallen off. There are so many layers of flavor and the ingredients complemented each other beautifully. Turn off the heat and watch as the fat released from the ribs rises to the top. Then spoon out the entire layer of fat into a separate heat-proof container and reserve because we will use it later on. Now remove the meat carefully from the consomme. This meat is so tender, I'm even having trouble removing it from the pot. It's falling apart beautifully. I transferred the broth to a different pot so I could remove the bones from the bottom. Taste it and add salt if needed. Then stir to incorporate and keep it hot. Now roughly chop the meat. Let me warn you, tasting the meat while chopping will be incredibly hard to resist. If you do taste it, prepare yourself because it tastes amazing and melts in your mouth. Additionally, you get to enjoy and indulge in this birria that has so much culture and history behind it. To me, Mexican food is like having a piece of Mexico close to me, and the memories warm my heart. Okay, once all the meat is chopped, it's time to assemble the quesa tacos. Take a tortilla and dip into the fat we removed from the consomme and make sure it coats it completely. Then place on an already hot non-stick pan, or in my case, non-stick comal. I have the comal over medium-low heat because if the heat is too high, the tortilla will burn and will not give the cheese enough time to melt. Add the Oaxaca cheese to half of the surface as well as the chopped meat. Then close the tortilla, creating a half-moon shape. Feel free to lower or increase the heat at any point if you feel it needs it. We're gonna let the cheese melt while the underside develops a crisp texture. I can actually fit another taco, which is great because I can do a recap of the steps. I'm using homemade tortillas, but you can also use store-bought. Some Mexican markets make them at their stores and sell them with their own packaging. They hold really well and are a great option to consider. When crispy, you can go ahead and flip them to allow the other side to crisp up as well. When the cheese has fully melted and both sides on the tortilla are crispy, they are done. Wow, look at these cheesy, meaty quesa tacos. Love them. These right here were made with store-bought tortillas, and as you can see, they work really well. Let's do the finishing touches. Sprinkle the onion and cilantro we prepped earlier inside of the quesa taco. Also drizzle homemade salsa and close it back up. I will leave my video on how to make homemade salsa in the description area. Just so you know, I'm using the blended version. Pour in the delicious and still hot consomme into your favorite bowl. Also top it with the chopped onion and cilantro. In addition, we are also spooning in the chopped jalapeno and drizzle in lime juice to open up the flavors even more. It's delicious, warm, and looks beautiful. Now let me show you how to pair the consomme and tacos. You can enjoy the consomme as soup on the side with the quesa tacos or dip them in the warm broth and enjoy. I personally alternate between both ways. Wow. Guys, my husband literally had to get me back on track because I couldn't stop eating. These are so delicious. The meat was cooked to perfection. I mean, you saw it. It was falling off the bone. And the consomme warms my heart because it brings me so many childhood memories. And it's so delicious. This right here is a treasure. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. Remember that you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for always being here and tuning in, showing support, and have an amazing rest of your day.